Hello everyone and welcome back to Wednesday here on the Pagan Perspective. I'm your host Eric. This week we are talking about selling spells, readings, and magic for profit. This week we are talking about spells, readings, and selling your magic for profit. The first one is from Riva Witch. And she says, here's something new and interesting. I would like to get your opinion on the new eBay ban on selling spells, potions, and healing prayers, tarot readings, and such. And she believes that, I'm sorry if I'm wrong, believes that Etsy will be following suit. Secondly, somebody asked Kara on her personal channel about magic for profit because they feel it's wrong, yet some people should be able to make money from their services. So where do we draw the line, and how do we personally deal with the profit aspect? So these kind of go together, so we'll get to those. First, I'm going to deal with Riva Witch's question about how do we feel about Etsy. Now, I did a little bit of research, and the only research I really did was reading the blog, which that everybody has linked to thus far in the week, so I'm not gonna do that in the section below. Just go to Kara's video or Rich's video, and you can go to the blog post. But I read that, and although it was difficult to read, mostly because I was having a hard time figuring out where the quotes came from, the basic information of that kind of gave me an idea where that person felt the topic was headed, which basically stated that they're taking down. They did actually last year in September 2012. They took down all of the services and all of the things that are non-tangible, which is true. I went into then the Etsy site, not the Etsy site. I'm sorry, the eBay site. And I pulled off a bunch of information, which I'm actually going to read for you. These are the discontinued categories. So everything either lists in business, industrial, art, home and garden, or everything else. In the everything else category, we have metaphysical, psychic or paranormal readings, metaphysical, psychic, or paranormal spells or potions, metaphysical tarot readings, advertising opportunities, memberships. In the specialty services is advice and instruction on business and computer, lessons and tutoring, anything that qualifies as other, diet and fitness. Then in the business and industrial category, business and websites for sale, advertising, inventory, businesses and websites for sale, home-based businesses. In the art department, in the art category, we have art from dealers and resellers as digital art, and direct from the artist as digital art. In home and garden, we have inside the home food and wine recipes. So none of these things, with the exception possibly of spells and potions, have any actual tangible item to be shipped. So when it comes to digital art and advertising, inventory, their reasoning behind this is, why are these categories being discontinued? These categories often result in issues between the buyer and seller that are difficult to resolve. To help build confidence in the marketplace for both buyers and sellers, eBay is discontinuing these categories and including the items and lists of prohibited items. The digital delivered goods policy already covers all goods that can be downloaded from a website or received by email, and includes requirements that items be listed in the everything else information and products category using only the classified ad format. By removing the digital art and recipes category, we will be consistent in our enforcement of this policy, which basically means if it doesn't have anything tangible other than electronic information or information that is shared via the internet, they're discontinuing it. If it has no tangible, and by tangible I mean something you can hold in your hand, something that can be shipped, something that has to go through some sort of parcel service, they're taking it off the site. So that has nothing to do with being discriminatory. You can't, very much like Kara said, you can't say, in an evangelical way, if you pay me this money, I will say a prayer for you, I will do a spell for you, I will create a potion for you, and then disperse it throughout the universe, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Those things are no longer allowed. I don't see that there's a problem there, because what that is saying is you cannot sell your religious practice over the internet when you're the one using the items to evoke or to create that effect. If somebody says, I mean, if you say, this is a spell kit for you to do a spell, you could then put disclaimers on that kit to say, not, results may vary, this may not actually work for you, blah, blah, blah. And then if they want to get into it, you say, no, I delivered what you asked for. Using it is your problem. Using it is up to you as to whether or not it is effective. It is a matter of belief, and it is a matter of how did you do it, and just because I sent you the product does not guarantee that it is going to give you the effect that you wanted it to. So that's one of those things where if it is a tangible product that ships through the mail or some other parcel service, it is going to very much be allowable on eBay. Especially if you list it properly in things like, this is an item of religious whatever. I could still sell candles and athames and other various things listed as such, and say this is a religious altar table. This is an athame specifically designed for ritual use. This is a candle that is intended for this purpose. I can't say that this athame will protect you from evil. This candle, when burned, will generate more income for you. I can't say those things. I can say that this item is intended for this purpose, and then sell it on eBay. What I can't do is say, if you put, so many dollars in my PayPal account, I will do a reading for you, and then email that video or that audio file to your inbox, and, then you will have the product. Because they're doing the same thing with digital art direct from the artist. It's one of those things where, because there is no tangible, it's all in zeros and ones, and it's all in electronic information, you can't sell that on eBay. And that's perfectly fine. eBay gets to decide what they do and don't allow sold on their website, and I think it's a smart business decision for them. It might suck for a lot of people who are using eBay as their outlet, because it is a huge market. It makes it very difficult for them to be able to satisfy those arguments between seller and buyer. So, in my opinion, I think the eBay ban on things that are intangible being sold on their website, I think that's probably a really good idea for them, and for the people who want to sell those things over the internet, they're going to have to go elsewhere, and they're going to have to be okay with it. So moving on to the second part of this week's video is the idea of profiting from our magic just in general. Now, when I do things like cleansings and what most people consider spells, when I make a bind rune, when I put that information out there, most of the time, if it's not terribly involved, if it's not going to take me more than an hour of my time, and it's not going to take up any of my other resources, like Kara mentioned yesterday, with fuel to get there, and so much time out of my day, and my ritual tools that are consumed, like sage and sweetgrass and other various herbs that I burn, things that are consumed. If it doesn't take a whole lot of those resources, and it's something that I'm willing to give freely, that is what I do. I don't generally ask people for gas money unless I'm driving like forever away and they're not my friends. Because my friends, if they ask me for something, I am more than willing to give freely of myself, because they also give me freely of themselves, and I feel it all works out in the wash. When it comes to things like tarot readings and you guys have all heard me talk about the Pagan Pride Day and the Sugar House 4th of July Fair, and lots of the other things that I do personally, where I give rune readings in a public setting, I don't charge per se. I ask for donations because one, if I were to charge money for the readings that I give, I would then have to have in Utah. I would have to have a business license, pay taxes on all of those things, all of that income, and then maintain my my company status, as it were. And that's something that I just find absolutely too tedious and mundane when it comes to rune readings. What I do though is during those times I put up signs that say suggested donation. Sometimes it's $5, sometimes it's $10, sometimes it's $15, depending on the venue that I am at. And the reason that I ask for those donations, and sometimes I don't even get paid. Sometimes somebody walks up and says, "Well, it's a donation. Does that mean I can get a reading for free?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I'm not going to be as into it, obviously, because I'm doing you a favor without having you balance out this relationship here." And I'm not gonna put quite as much into it, and I'm not gonna do the whole 9 yards, because what I usually do is I fill out a little card and then put the reading on it, and put a summary of what we talked about on it, and then they get to take that with them. If there's no donation involved, I don't feel obligated to do that, so that they can take the information with them, and then the information has to be either in their head or just kind of occasionally sparked memories of stuff like that. It's one of those things where when someone comes to my booth and sits down and pays for my reading, I then feel like they are willing to put their energy in the form of money in my direction, so I am more willing to put my energy in the form of the reading and the information, and making sure that there's some of this information that they get to then take with them and reference anytime they want without having to think about it or remember it or whatever. And that feels more like an even trade to me, an equal trade to me. Now, the only reason I charge $5 or $10 or $15, as opposed to just saying, you know what, whatever you want to pay, just, donations welcome. That would be the sign. If I didn't have to pay for my booth space, when I'm at a place like the 4th of July fair or the Pagan Pride Day festival that we have, booth space costs money. That's how the Pagan Pride group, they're an actual group and they're nationwide. The vending fees all go to the Pagan Pride. It's not a company, but the group itself, for advertising purposes and for fee purposes of paying fees and group costs, and they don't run on dues, they run on vendor fees. So I have to pay, sometimes it's upwards of $170 a pop to have that booth space. Well, I need to make some of that money back so that I can then pay for the space. So I average it out oftentimes, and I go, okay, well, I will probably do 20 rune readings in a day, easily. So I think 20 rune readings, I need $160, or I need $75, or I need, if I only need to make $75 for the day, I'll only charge $5 a reading, or I'll only ask $5 a reading, rather. If I need to make $170 so that I can break even on the day, I'm going to ask $15 a reading. And oftentimes that does bring the number of readings down a bit, but it also makes it so that I am a lot closer to making my booth fee, so that I can at least break even. Usually what winds up happening is I set my price that I'm asking for, and sometimes people will happily pay that. Sometimes they offer less, sometimes they offer more. I remember one time specifically at the 4th of July fair, I was asking $5 a reading, and a lady came up and sat down and handed me the $5 and put a wad of money back in her pocket, and we finished the reading, and I handed her card, and she got back into her pocket and she pulled out another $30 and handed it to me because she was so happy with the reading. And I told her that was unnecessary, and she absolutely insisted, which made me feel good, and it also kind of boosted my my income for the day. But at the end of that day, I only wound up with enough money to cover my booth fee and $60 on top of that so I could take myself and my wife out to a nice dinner afterwards because we were absolutely exhausted but needed to eat. So when it comes to making money off of your spells and your magic and or your readings or any of your metaphysical religious practices, I feel breaking even or getting a little bit out of it is not a bad thing. But I can't justify personally taking, say, 30 cents worth of incense and mixing it into a bundle and then taking it out into a shop and charging $5 for a spell. So it's one of those things that it has to be a matter of personal integrity and personal ethics as to how much you make out of it, but I personally have no qualms whatsoever about making a little bit of money off of your time and effort. So if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, this is my opinion on making money off of Magic and the new eBay policies as of last September. But if you have any questions, like I said, feel free to post those comments in the comment section below. But that's it for me this week. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and of course, until next time, Odin be with you.